You might notice a slight adjustment to the rep scheme in our A series exercises with this set of workouts, where we've moved to what we can call straight sets. In previous phases, we've often used rep ranges, as in 8 to 10 repetitions. Now we're getting much more specific. This likely isn't entirely new. Fixed rep numbers have come up more than a few times with things like plateaus and ascending rep schemes. But now we take that same level of precision and apply it to a rep scheme where the numbers don't change. The reason for this is that as you improve, it works in your favor to get more precise with your loading and more specific with your intention. The rep ranges are great in certain circumstances and as you're starting off because they allow for a little margin for error. If you overestimate the weight, well, okay, just try and get close. But at this point, we've made some real progress, and continuing to make progress requires a more nuanced approach than it does for beginners. So from here on out, you're not going to see rep ranges in the A series. You need to be specific, which means you really need to nail those weights. Now, something that goes hand in hand with this approach is that your first few sets really, are not meant to be as hard as you can possibly manage. You can and should build in a little wiggle room into those early sets, and you should aim to add weight as you go. You don't want for those first sets to be a cakewalk, and you don't have to add weight every set, but you do want to gradually climb so that your final set or the final few sets are the heaviest ones. So for 6 sets of front squats, maybe you begin with 185 pounds, then another set at 185, and then 190, 190 again, 195, and maybe 200 on the last one. And that last set, or those last couple of sets, those can and should be a big challenge. The thing that's nice about this approach is that you can gauge what adjustments to make as you go. Maybe that jump to 195 proved harder than you thought, so you could just stay there for that final set. Additionally, this allows for a lot of opportunities to make some small improvements from session to session. So maybe for your second time around, you move up to 190 in your second set as opposed to the third set. And maybe the time after that, you move to 200 pounds on the 5th set as opposed to the 6th. And I realize that the idea of not going max effort right out of the gate might seem different, but I promise you that starting off a bit more conservatively and building is significantly more effective than overshooting and having the reps drop off towards the end. At least it is now that we have some solid experience. Now, at the risk of adding even more confusion into the mix, this approach is best applied to the A series of exercises, the big ones like squats and bench press. That's because these movements are the most neurologically demanding. You might not always think that your brain has all that much to do with strength development, but it really does. That's why there are 17-year-old kids on national weightlifting teams that have significantly less muscle mass than I do, but are still significantly stronger. Teasing the right neurological response out of your training is important, and that's largely what we're trying to do with this new straight sets approach. But once we get beyond the A series, well, your nervous system is more fatigued and we can shift focus in another direction. That's why the rep ranges remain for the accessory and the remedial lifts, the B and the C series exercises. Here, it is okay to go for broke and just kind of hang on the best you can. So sets of 10, 9, and 8 with the same load are just fine for a set of dumbbell bench press in the B series, but less desirable for a barbell bench press in the A series. I think that's probably enough for now. Probably more information than you expected for a seemingly straightforward subject, but there's a lot of nuance that goes into these workouts, and it's important to understand the why and how of these different approaches. And with that, I hope you enjoy this new, perhaps more thoughtful approach to those A series exercises.